Coming up on Seahawks today, could Frank Clark make a return to the Seattle Seahawks? We'll examine that possibility. Plus, we have a very good injury update on Jamal Adams that the people will love to hear. And what's the next step for Kenneth Walker? We've seen him get off to a good start to his career and has been one of the best players in the Seattle Seahawks so far in 2023. What's next for him? We'll examine that and more coming up in a matter of moments. Before we do, got a friend of mine that's going to be in Seattle this weekend, and he loves pizza. He loves going around and eating pizza and reviewing it, taking one bite at a time. So I would like to know, what's the best pizza to get in Seattle? Give me some advice. I'll pass it along to him. Let us know in the comments section. We'll get started with today's show. Frank Clark, could he make a return to the Seahawks? Bleacher Report has named Seattle as a top trade destination for the Denver Broncos edge rusher. Frank Clark hasn't been in Denver too long. He was brought over this offseason from the Kansas City Chiefs, where he won 2 Super Bowls. You recall he began his career in Seattle, but things aren't going great for the Broncos these days. They could be sellers at the deadline here in just a few weeks. More from Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report. For Clark, a return to the Seattle Seahawks could make sense. He began his career in Seattle, and the 3-1 Seahawks look like legitimate contenders in the NFC. While Seattle has done a good job of creating pressure, 16 sacks, playoff hopefuls can never have too much depth on the edge. Ain't that the truth? You can never have too many pass rushers. Now, I'll say this much. Clark has been battling a hip injury. We've seen him play in about 2 games so far this season. And Seahawks fans are well aware that when you talk about Frank Clark, there has been the ongoing character concerns over the years, dating back to his time at Michigan. Then he had a domestic dispute allegations when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. And there's just not been a good track record of things for Frank Clark. So if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm John Schneider and Pete Carroll, if I'm going to bring Frank Clark back with those things in mind, an older player that's got a recent injury he's been dealing with, and those character concerns, I'm not giving up a whole lot to bring Frank Clark back. I'm not opposed to making a trade, but I'm not giving up the farm for Frank Clark. So here's what I would be willing to offer. 2024 6th-round pick. Take it or leave it. And where the Broncos are at, they're so desperate. They need some draft capital. They're going to go full-on rebuild mode with Sean Payton here. They might just be willing to take that, quite frankly. The resume for Frank Clark, it is one of the better resumes you'll find in the National Football League. A 3-time Pro Bowler as recently as 2021. A 2-time Super Bowl champion. And one of the things about Frank Clark, about that time that he had in Kansas City with the Chiefs, especially with that first Super Bowl, you could argue with the second Super Bowl too, that they would not have won that first Super Bowl without Frank Clark, that he made that much of an impact and a difference for those Kansas City Chiefs teams. These statistics for Frank Clark, let's show you what he has done as of late. This year, just 2 tackles so far this season. Last year had 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 8 tackles for loss. In 2021, had 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 tackles for loss. You can see the numbers pretty steady Eddie from 2020 through 2022. So what do you think? Should the Seahawks trade for Frank Clark and bring him back to Seattle? It's our pinned comment today. Weigh in and tell us what you think. Why for yes and for no, if they should make a trade for Frank Clark or not. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, one of our newest partners here at Chat Sports, and Game Time is the place to go when you're talking about getting those last-minute tickets. Look, we all find ourselves in situations sometimes where we decide on a whim, you know what, I want to go do this. And with Game Time, whether you're going to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater productions, Game Time is going to be the place to be to get you those last-minute tickets at the best price for the best seats, guaranteed. Here's how it works, folks. You find the event you want to go to, and they have the prices listed where you can see the best values or the cheapest seats, however you want to organize it. Pick out the seat you want and get the view of what that seat is going to look like And then from there, you check out, and you can pay with Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever it may be, and have your tickets downloaded within just a matter of moments. Here's what we're offering Seahawks Today viewers. If you download Game Time, we will give you $20 off, plus you will be able to go to these events just like that, folks. $20 off with the promo code Seahawks Chat. So download Game Time today. Tell them that Tyler Jones Chat Sports sent you. You'll be glad you did. Start saving $20 off with Game Time, promo code Seahawks Chat. Guess who's back? Back again. Jamal Adams, we found out today, according to Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, has cleared concussion protocol and is good to go for this Sunday's game against the Cincinnati Bengals. If you recall, he took the injury back a couple weeks ago against the New York Giants, just 9 plays in to his return from the quad injury that he had suffered that forced him to miss most of last year. This Sunday will be his second game since the return from that quad injury that he suffered there. Now, granted, it was a small sample size, but what the Seahawks had in Jamal Adams for just a few plays last Monday night, it looked awesome. He was making an impact on this defense immediately, had 2 tackles, was flying all over the field, and what we've seen already is that the Seahawks plan to play him a lot along with Julian Love and Quandre Diggs. Look, the concussion was a freak accident. I know people are going to say that, here we go again. Here's Jamal Adams, another injury. That could have happened to anybody. It just happened to happen to Jamal in this case. But it was a reminder that you shouldn't necessarily expect to put all your chips on the table to depend on Jamal Adams necessarily. The depth chart for the Seahawks that was released this past week, pretty interesting that the Seahawks are going forward with those 3 on the field at the same time. That's always been the plan, with Witherspoon on one side, Reek Woolen on the other, and now we'll see this group really in full form. And I think that with pretty much everybody, on their way to getting back on the football field here, this group is going to take things up a notch and be explosive. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table here. What's your confidence level in Jamal Adams? Scale it 1 through 10 in the comment section. Let us know what you think of where the Seahawks are at with Jamal Adams and what he can do at this point. Walking it up, Kenneth Walker has been absolutely incredible so far to start off his young NFL career. And in 2023, he is off to a hot start to the season so far. The numbers for Kenneth Walker through 4 games, he's got 5 touchdown runs, 283 yards, averaging 4.4 yards per carry. It's been good for Kenneth Walker, but he hasn't come close to his ceiling yet, his full potential. Granted, the offensive line's been banged up, to start this season, but even with that said, one thing that you can point to in Kenneth Walker's short career so far is that when he rushes for 30 yards or more, that usually means the Seahawks win. So far, what we've seen, this year included, Seattle is 4-1 in those said games where he has at least one rush of 30 yards or more. So you get the explosive runs, that's a good sign for the Seahawks. And so now, at this point going forward, there's a few things that stood out to me when you examine the numbers on Kenneth Walker at this point. Last year, he was 3rd in the NFL in explosive plays. That was plays of 30 yards or more on the ground. And his speed, we talked about it on this program before. He and Zach Charbonnet wanted to do that thunder lightning thing. Last year, he was 2nd in the NFL in the top speed that he reached at 22.09 miles per hour. So we know that Kenneth Walker is able to take it to the house and get that thing zipping on any given play with that top-end speed he brings. And so far this year, he's had 4 runs of over 20 miles an hour at this point in time. He's already faster than a school zone by his own feet, by his own footwork. So watch out. Keep an eye to see Kenneth Walker take that next step, and if they can really get this thing going for him to have more of those explosive plays. Walker's explosive runs, think about this, folks. You remember that earthquake that hit the Puget Sound a couple days ago? That 4.2 magnitude earthquake? That's what Kenneth Walker's runs are like, folks. He has that type of impact, that type of effect on the Seahawks and what he brings, the energy to the table there. So more of Kenneth Walker. I want to see that. The numbers look good. Let's see him continue that, carry it over here throughout the next few weeks. Before we head out of here today, I want to show some love for Kenneth Walker in the comment section. Spam K9 for Kenneth Walker, and who knows, he might be watching, his family, his friends may be watching. Show him some love in that comment section, and we'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.